Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are joining us from. My name is Johan van Koten, and I'm Strategic Business Development Director Europe at Ampeco, and I will be hosting today's panel discussion. I would like to warmly welcome our audience and our panelists to this e-mobility webinar, where we will discuss the challenges and opportunities ahead for charge point operators in 2025. If we go to the next slide, I would like to show you that this webinar that we are hosting today is part of an Ampeco webinar series, which has been a great success so far. And we covered key topics like build versus buy dilemma, CFI grants, and also how to select the CPMS in 2025. And if you have missed any of these previous sessions, you can find the recording in the resources section on our website. So be sure to stay tuned as well, because more insightful webinars are coming out throughout the year. And last year, the Outlook webinar was a great success as well, so we decided to make it a tradition. So I'm really looking forward to moderate this new edition as well. And if we go to the next slide, I would like to introduce the panelists. So first of all, I would say we have an excellent lineup of industry experts who will provide insights into the key trends shaping the European EV charging landscape. We will look back at 2024, discuss also where we are today, and looking forward to what's coming next. But before we begin, let me introduce you to our panelists. First of all, looking at the screen, I will start with you, Arjan van der Rijk. Arjan is COO of E.ON Drive Infrastructure, a leading European provider for public charging solutions, with more than 25 years of experience in the management consulting and the energy sector and e-mobility. Arjan leads the growth of one of Europe's largest EV charging networks, managing more than 6,000 charge points across 11 European countries. Then we have Aurélien Demot with us as well. Aurélien is the co-founder and CEO of Electra, a fast-growing startup in the EV charging space. I don't know if it's even a startup anymore. You're growing very fast with rapid, accessible, and user-friendly solutions for the European market. Aurélien founded Electra in 2021 with the mission to address the biggest barrier to EV adoption, fast and convenient charging. Then I would like to introduce Philip Senoner to you as well. Philip is CEO and co-founder of Alpitronic, and with a background in engineering and a strong vision for innovation, he has played a pivotal role in making Alpitronic a market leader in high-power charging solutions, and he turned the hypercharger into one of the most recognized and widely adopted fast charging systems in Europe. And last but not least, we have Marcus Hackman. Marcus is the managing director of P3 and responsible for the area of e-mobility. He joined P3 in 2006 and has since been working on numerous projects in the field of e-mobility regarding technology strategies, lithium-ion batteries, and the broader topic of EV charging. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. It's truly an honor for me to host a panel with such experienced professionals. So it feels like it raises the bar for me as a moderator, but I will do my best, guys, to keep up with you and make sure that we have valuable and engaging discussions. And before I pick your brains today, just a little bit of housekeeping. In the middle of the screen, as a participant, you will see the Q&A section, and you can drop your questions there. So it enables you, of course, in a way to be part of the conversation today. And yeah, we have a lot to tell, a lot to share, so time is limited. Make sure you already drop your questions during the discussion, and we will try to discuss them at the end of the session. The agenda for today, the first few minutes, Marcus will be setting the scene with his presentation, in which he will be looking back to 2024 and discuss the outlook for 2025. Then we will have the main part of the meeting today, which is the panel discussion, and at the end we have a Q&A section. So from here, I would like to give the floor to you, Marcus. So take it away. The floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Johan, and thank you also for inviting me to this nice webinar. I really like to talk about a little bit about the recap, but also about the future. And as you said, Johan, it's a little bit sets the scene. Where are we actually? And first of all, if you have a look at the recap, E-mobility was growing fast, and especially we as P3 made very nice prognostication for the future that the world will be battery electric and that even plug-in hybrid electric cars will be, I would say, in between technology, but in the end, 2030 on, it will be all electric. And then it was 2024, as you can see here. Uh, Decline of 2% in market share from 2023 to 24, and that's the truth, and we have to deal with this truth. I think where is it all about, but what are the factors for it? We see in Germany, due to that Robert Habeck stopped the program of funding e-mobility in Germany, the market goes down by 18%, and that's not very good for Europe. But there are some lights in the sky, and for in UK you have a growth of 20%, what is very nice, and you see this market is really going well. What you also see, the other markets are still in between, not decided yet if they are in mobility market or not, and we will see all of the market shares here. And I think this is very interesting, so that we just can spend some seconds on it. We see the Nordics, so every third car in the Nordics, in Norway, is already battery electric, and this country, yeah, it's I would say a very good example for e-mobility. Also, we can have very much charging test over there, which is nice. And I mean, for the people, e-mobility is normal. And if you have a look into the Netherlands, as you have heard, it's also Amsterdam, for example, it's on a very good way. But if we have a big on the whole Europe landscape, we see especially in the south of Europe countries with around 1%. And if you have a look at Spain, for example, very important to the EU, it's just 1.2% of battery electric cars. So the EV market share is very, very low. And this is something we have to deal with, and something where we see huge potential for the future. But as I said, funding actually is a must, and I will talk a little bit later also about the different levers. If we then have a look at the next slide, this webinar is about charging and about high power charging and public high power charging. So we had a look around the different markets. And what we see here, charging infrastructure, much, much better. And it is, as it is sometimes in the different press articles, people are worrying about charging infrastructure, thinking about, oh, is it possible to charge my car? Can I charge really fast? How long do I have to stay? Do I have to queue for charging infrastructure in terms of holidays? So this is all about the different questions we have in the market and at the people. And we have to take all of these questions, of course, very serious, but that's the truth here. So if you have a look at Europe, the public infrastructure is growing very, very fast, especially between 150 and 350 kilowatt. Also, I would say 350 upwards category is rising, and we talk definitely also about truck charging. I have some ideas about that, but you can see here all of the infrastructure is growing. Germany as well. There's the market is not that good, but the built the infrastructure is very, very good, and you see it in every market. And what I want to say here also, if you have a look at France, France was very late in terms of bringing charging infrastructure to the market, but now this is a very strong charging market and very good for the different CPOs to sell the charging products. What is also, I think, very interesting is we call it the battery electric vehicle to HPC point ratio. What does this mean? If you have a look in the middle at the Benelux, we have this example. We have 111 battery electric vehicles per one HPC point across the Benelux. So in our P3 opinion, this is a sweet spot between the market, the EV market, and the HPC charging infrastructure. What you can also see to understand this a little bit better, for example, I just talked about France. France in 2021, there were above 700 cars per one charging point, and that's definitely not enough. But you can see some of the yet now France is very good. So that's the reason why I said they are on a very good way. Also, Germany is very good. And this is also in a good balance, I would say, or maybe it's also oversupply. And Joran, I think this is very important because we have different CPOs around in this webinar. And maybe the CPOs have a different opinion, but that's how to set the scene. We as P3 see a kind of oversupply. We will see if this is the truth, but actually that's the market. And also we see a decrease of profitability, which is also not so nice for many, many companies, but you have to deal with this and you need new ideas. And we see also Chinese players coming to the HPC market, which decreases pricing points in some ways as well. And all around this, we have to deal with it. But I mean, that's our kind of business to do the best out of this. If we then have a look at the overall development in Europe, we have many highlights. So we have a strong network growth of the HPC infrastructure. We have also some nice investments and fundings for US Ampeco and Electra, for example, both here in the webinar. We have new flagship sites. So also OEMs and other CPOs use public charging as a flagship to strengthen their brand, which is very nice if you're working in e-mobility. And what we need, and that's also the truth, it's good to have some subsidy programs. And we have seen in Germany what happens if you stop subsidy programs. The people are getting very, very nervous, and uncertainty is not good for growing in the different markets. But we have also some challenges, reliability and customer experience, very important. If you have a customer at a charging station, which is not a happy customer, all of these is incredible fast in the press, in the social media, and this is something we have to deal with. So reliability, very important. Market consolidation, I talked about it already. We have many, many different players around here for hardware solutions. We think there will be definitely a market consolidation. And as I said, we have a high pressure on CapEx and OpEx topics. And if we then have a look and do the outlook has to be nice and has to be much more friendly. Until 2030, of course, we see a strong growth, especially on the battery electric vehicles. And we see also a strong growth on the high power charging infrastructure. What are the drivers? CO2 emission fleet targets, a strong driver in 2025. We will get much, much more affordable EV models under 30,000 euros. We will have nice price points in the EV sales. And I, on my side, have done 2 studies in 2024. One was a really huge one about the battery lifetime, the state of health. And we have seen on 7,000 cars that the EV batteries last much longer as expected. And it's much more positive as in the press articles. And we will have increased EV charging performance, like the Porsche Taycan, Lotus Emea, and all of these cars Very, very nice cars, but even in the middle segment, we have charging power around 150 kilowatt, which is very, very nice. So in 15, 20 minutes, you can get 300 kilometers real range, which is quite nice. 5 years ago, it was totally different. And if we then have a short outlook on the EV charging industry to the future, as I promised in this webinar, we will also talk about truck depot charging, which is a very important case. We talk about megawatt charging. So MCS is coming to the market pretty soon. So truck battery electric mobility will happen, and it will happen much bigger than we ever expected. Bidirectional charging, vehicle to grid integration in France already there. In Germany, many lobby work has been done, but I think there will also be a bidirectional future. And in the end, software is the key of everything, and that's the reason why we have very much growth in energy management system and also in battery energy storage systems integration, so that we have a good connection between the grid and the charging stations. So 10 minutes are over. I set the scene. You're on. Thank you very much, and back to you.
Thanks, Marcus, for I think this realistic overview. I would say with the high and the low lights from past year, and I'm always intrigued by the topic of BEV, the battery electric vehicles versus high power charging ratio. That's definitely one of the topics we will touch upon as well. So thank you very much. And before we start looking ahead in our panel, let's take a moment to reflect on 2024 together, because as we have seen, it was a year of significant milestones, but also challenges. Marcus, you've been sharing your view, so I would also like to hear from the other panelists one thing. That's what is your major highlight and what is your major lowlight from the past year? And maybe starting with you here, Philip, what stood out for you the most when you look back at 2024?
Yeah, thank you. So in my opinion, from an Alpitronic perspective, we had a low light in May when we had a big fire here at our nearby our headquarters. No one was injured, so that was really lucky. Then on the other side, also the operations were not affected. From an e-mobility perspective, I would say that the low light was Germany, or the German government, stepping back from the financial support or subsidies for EVs. That was a bad sign for the industry. So the perception in the market was that Germany is not anymore supporting the e-mobility transition. So that was really, really bad, in my opinion. Then as a highlight for us as Alpitronic, we had the market entry in the US. And the first successful deployment of the first chargers in the US in 2024, that was really a highlight for us.
Great. Yeah, it's you would almost forget it, your fire at your plant, but that was only last year indeed. Great to hear that nobody was injured.
It was the 15th birthday of the company, and some said that this was the candle burning, but that was a bad joke, I would say.
Exactly, yeah. And Arjan, maybe a nice bridge. Germany is already covered here as well. Maybe you can give your perspective on your high and low lights of the past year as well.
Yes, thank you, Johan. Well, unfortunately, for the low light, I stay in Germany, because my low light as an EV driver in Germany is that there's still no build out of infrastructure directly on the German Autobahn. After more than 2 years now of the running lawsuit. And I really hope that we can undo this in 2025 because it's really necessary. You cannot do 50 kW at the Autobahn anymore, and it's still the case at many stations. So we managed to refurbish some old chargers, but we're still not allowed to tune them up, and that is really a shame. My highlight was really kicking in the growth in truck charging, and for us that was characterized as Eon Drive with our cooperation with MAN. It doesn't happen very often that you find a partner who really shares your goals when it comes to decarbonizing the transport industry, and MAN is for us a great partner to work together with. They really have similar goals, and it's a pleasure to work with them and build infrastructure at their service sites. So that was my highlight for this year.
Great. Yeah, and also for the coming year, I'm sure we will touch upon this truck charging topic as well. Aurélien, last but not least, happy to get your take on this.
Yeah, we had an eventful year in 2024 at Electra. If I start with the highlight, I think there was a few. There was the closing of our fundraising. We announced 304 million euros early last year. Then we opened new countries. We opened our first sites in Austria, in Switzerland, in Luxembourg as well. And in the low light, I think it's the market, basically, the stagnation of BEVs, where we've seen in Europe that I think the narrative has been pretty poor, pretty bad. I've seen a lot of articles in the media, a lot of people starting to criticize again fiercely the BEVs, with a sort of shortcut between the situation in which the whole automotive industry is in Europe at the moment and the decarbonization trajectory, with a lot of people pointing the finger at this trajectory. And a lot of lobbying at the end of last year and still going on early this year in order to challenge the CAFE penalties and people trying to undermine the electrification trajectory, which I think is still a challenge for 2025. And I hope that PHEVs, and by the way, if you allow me, Marcus, I think we should take PHEVs out of these studies because they are combustion engines, full stop. And so when we talk about electric cars, we need to be clear that these are electric cars, full battery electric vehicles.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Also, always from a Dutch perspective on the PHEVs, I think they played a very nice role a few years ago with rolling out the network, but I think we are now in a different stage. So yeah, they are mainly carrying a very heavy battery with them amongst the road, I would say. And you did start an EV charge initiative, I saw in France as well, Aurélien, but that's maybe not 2024, but it's quite recently, right?
Yeah, that's recently we set up an association which is called Charge France, where we got together with 12 other CPOs in order to try to be heard, because the OEMs and a lot of people are quite vocal, but we are not. And so the idea is to change that in 2025. And one other highlight that, sorry, I forgot, is the introduction of our new concept, the Electra line, at the Paris Motor Show in September last year, or in October 2024, which was a very big moment for the company. So there were some very good moments.
Great. It's good to hear. So yeah, we've seen quite some developments in 2024, particularly when it also comes to market consolidation and the growth of infrastructure, like Marcus shared in his slide as well. And that's maybe a good bridge also to look at the evolving use cases that are shaping the market for the coming year. Because yeah, I think it's clear EV charging is no longer only limited to passenger cars and locations where they used to charge their car as well. But although this is still very important, there are other use cases that become increasingly important as well. So on one hand, because there are new user types, I would say, that pop up. And on the other end, maybe because the way people and business are charging might be changing, and the CPOs must adapt to that. Looking at you, Arjan, do you recognize this shift as well? And what would you like to share about the use cases that you see evolving in the coming year?
Yeah, I already mentioned, of course, truck charging, and that's very clear development. Both en route as well as overnight charging will become increasingly important. I think for the use cases when it comes to passenger cars, you see more and more what we call destination charging, driven by regulation like GEIG in Germany. Owners of real estate are pushed to kit out their parking spaces with infrastructure, and that helps a lot for our customers, EV drivers, to integrate charging really into their life. Yeah? Charging is something you don't need to go somewhere for and sit in your car and do your emails while you're charged. Charging is something you can do while you do other things. So you do shopping, or you go for dinner, or you sleep at night. And this is what we see as more and more people are learning how to do that. And that's also why we think AC charging still has a place in the ecosystem for the cities. And still in the bigger cities, really popular, not only for overnight charging, but also for people using it during shopping, and at 2-3 hours give you still enough power again to get back to your destination where you came from. So it's the whole, and that's why we talk at ADRI, charging for everyone everywhere. It's the whole system that needs to be there to push electric driving forward, not only HPC.
Yeah, and that's a great perspective, because all talking about the public AC, I believe you had some interesting project in Denmark, right? If I was not mistaken, about dynamic pricing. Is that correct? Can you share a bit on that?
Yeah, we did a pilot in Copenhagen with dynamic pricing, where we, at the moments where there's a lot of green electricity on the grid, we lower the prices. So we have an opportunity for customers to benefit from the moments that there is a lot of green energy on the grid. Another pilot we are looking at is that the customers give us the room to charge their car at night, but we can define the exact timing when we do it. So the customer tells us, okay, we arrive at 8 o'clock, we need to leave tomorrow at 6. My battery needs to be at 80% when I leave. You can define when you charge my car, but do it for the lowest possible cost. And those are use cases that are becoming more and more interesting, than really using the fact when there is green electricity on the grid in mass, that you use it also to give a benefit to the customer.
Exactly, yeah, because in the end, the customer benefits from the lower pricing, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe one of the use cases you mentioned, it's already mentioned a few times, and maybe it would be great to get your perspective on that as well, Philip, about the rise of electric heavy-duty vehicles. Truck charging is clearly coming up, looking back at the past year, but definitely also looking forward. What's your perspective on this use case?
Yeah, first of all, I think that decarbonizing the transport of goods is has a huge relevance. For us, I think as a hardware manufacturer, it's a new business where every truck, maybe in average, needs somehow a DC charger in the different use cases. So we have depot charging, maybe overnight, then HPC or MCS charging on the road, overnight charging on the road, and also then charging on the loading dock. So for us, this means that we had to broaden our product portfolio in order to cope with all these situations, with the different use cases. And a big step for Alpitronic was the introduction of the HYC 1000, a new product we introduced nearly 10 days ago. It's a centralized power electronics where we can distribute the power dynamically to up to eight charging ports, and we can also have a mix of CCS and MCS dispensers. So that's for Alpitronic, I think, a really, really big step to accommodate all the different use cases coming up with truck charging. Then beside that, I think that our industry needs to take care of building business models around the truck charging to somehow stabilize the TCO for the logistic company. I think logistic companies are always under pressure with their cost and their cost structure, and that's I think a big topic. For Europe, I see that there is a big opportunity. Our electrified HGVs are great products. So there are great products coming from European manufacturers. I think that we need somehow also with politics to try to find ways to push the OEMs to bring the cost of the vehicle down to the diesel somehow. Now, one big obstacle for logistic companies entering into or starting with electrification of their fleets is for sure the price or the cost of the vehicle, which is sometimes more than double than the diesel. So I think that we should try to find ways to incentivize our OEMs, also maybe with money, to come to cost parity, build global leaders with the best technology for an affordable price.
Yeah, clear call out to the government here as well to make sure that the subsidies are coming in place. Because if you set goals, you also need to be there to support it, right? I would say.
Yeah, and I don't mean subsidies for the end users. So I think that in Europe, maybe we have to change a bit our ideas in terms of subsidies. I think we have to subsidize the industry in order to build great products, to bring great products to the market, and also to compete all over the world with our products. This is what China and the United States is doing. So I think we have great industry in Europe, and we have to keep the industry in Europe.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcus. You would like to react on this as well, and maybe you can also weave in some other use cases you see from your perspective.
Yeah, of course. I'm very happy that we talk about truck charging, and yeah, I think very critical sentence about stopping the subsidies in Germany, as I did as well, but which was a very, very positive activity was IAA, the International Truck Fair in Hanover in Germany, because this was a huge boost to truck electrification, and that's the reason why we talk now about these. I'm also very happy that the megawatt charging system, the standard, is expected to be published at least next year, but on pilot use cases also this year. So we are pushing this together with our customers very hard. The first megawatt charging MCS products become commercially available. I think this is also a big step, and Philip, the HYK 1000 and other solutions are, yeah, I think pushing the market and set the standard, and this is very important, as you said, to be very, very innovative. Then, Johan, I think if we have the Deutschlandnetz, so the truck charging network in Germany available, which is a huge bidding round as well. And just in the morning, Johan, and that's very exclusive, I was asked if P3 is bidder for the Deutschlandnetz, and many people are here. We are not, but I'm very proud that people are asking us if we are. We support our customers. We know our position, and this is to deliver services. But you see people are getting nervous, and you see truck charging is getting huge, and that's the reason around it. And if we have two use cases, logistic companies are awake now. They really believe in electric trucks. And the electric depot, the e-depot, is very interesting. So we work together with logistic companies on, we call it hub-to-hub in operation mode, like DHL, Renos, Contago are some companies who are thinking about these systems. And we have new business models in terms of charging as a service, energy as a service. This is very, very interesting for e-depot, in our opinion. And the second one, I'm not very happy with it. I told it already, is the bidirectional charging cases. Even for trucks, this is very, very interesting. And many people know that I have at my home place a vehicle-to-home solution. This is the first step. It's far too expensive, but it's really nice to deal with this different use cases. And for depots, bidirectional charging can be also very, very interesting. Battery buffer charging is very interesting. If you have a weak grid connection, huge batteries. All of these are very, very nice use cases, also with energy as a service. And we have to take this into account, I guess.
Yeah, thanks for weaving in this topic as well. And then Aurélien, what already was mentioned by Arjan was charging while you do other things. I think that in a way sounds as music in your ears, I would say. So can you shed your light a bit on the use cases you are focusing on from Electra?
Yeah, indeed. So this is something we know pretty well. Initially, fast charging developed on a highway or at the highway exit, because of course we understand that if you want to travel long distances, you want to go from Paris to the south of France, you need to be able to stop in minutes, not in hours, in order to move around. But having said that, the kilometers driven on the highway represent 15% of the kilometers driven in the country. And I would expect it to be pretty much the same thing in most other countries. So this means that there's a lot of commuting in urban areas. We know that 60% in the Paris greater area, which is a typical very dense urban area, do not have access to a private car park. So these people will have to find a solution to charge in convenience places, which can be supermarkets, which can be hotels, which can be commercial centers, retailers, car parkings, etc. And so we're trying to offer that solution for them. And we're also addressing, by providing an offer in urban areas, we're providing an offer for professionals. And in the professional segments, we address in particular maybe 3 substreams. One is people transport, so Ubers and taxis. And as you know, these are very intense users. 2, last mile logistics. They really are under pressure to decarbonize and to electrify their fleets. So, and they, of course, need a fast charging solution if they don't want to jeopardize their work. And 3, car rental. We work with companies like Europcar, Avis, and all the main ones. So we are really trying to provide that offer in urban areas, not just the top 3 or 5 cities, but the top maybe 30 or 40 cities, to make sure that we can be an enabler and people can go out and switch to electric cars without thinking about it, because that's the whole purpose, is that we need to get out of this is going to be a completely different organization for me if I switch to an electric car. No, we're trying to make it easy for them so that there is no friction.
And then when you talk about an offer, Aurélien, is that indeed, you talked about, I believe, the TCO also of last mile logistics, etc. Is that something you have a specific offer then for those companies, right? Is what you mean?
Yeah, for businesses, we have a service called Electra for Business, where professionals can subscribe. And when they subscribe, they get access to some advantages. So these advantages can be comfort, for example, monthly invoicing. They can also book some charge point in advance, but they can also get a preferred tariff, preferred pricing if they bring on some volumes. So it's sort of a win-win situation. And so we have more than 400 B2B accounts registered today on this platform.
Right. Yeah. Great. So we're talking here about the rollout of networks and also different use cases, I would say. So we've been discussing where the charging is happening, and maybe something very interesting to look at as well is how do we ensure the network reliability, the topic of efficiency, but also how to cope with grid constraints, which in this evolving markets only becomes more critical if we talk about especially also those new use cases, right? So Arjan, when it's about making sure that sites are rolled out and your network is reliable, what are the biggest challenges, but also opportunities that you see the coming year? And would also be great to weave in, of course, your European coverage and what difference you see in different geographies.
Yeah, well, first of all, when it comes to the build out, of course, grid connections remains the biggest constraint. You see in countries like the Netherlands, it's hardly impossible to connect a company to the grid at the moment. Yeah, so it's really difficult, and we are talking to customers who have existing grid connections that we can borrow part of their grid connection to build up the infrastructure, and you have to go to different solutions there to be able to build out. In other countries, the throughput times are quite long. But as a CPO, you can complain about it, but you can also try to make the best out of it and come up with solutions, getting the most out of the low power, low voltage grid, or work with storage and make sure that you are able to still create the output. And I think this is where more and more solutions are coming on the market. Still not really standardized. Yeah, the grid codes are complex. Every country has different grid codes and different regulations around connecting storage. So you need a lot of know-how as a CPO to be able to deploy storage in all countries where you are active. We are now focusing especially on the markets where the grid constraints are high. So we're focusing on the Nordics, on the Netherlands and Germany. So we are really capable of building up storage there so that we can continue to roll out in the pace that we need to do it. And in other countries, you have to be patient. We have to be realistic. In Poland, it takes a lot of time, and fortunately, the market is also not there where it is in other countries. So we also have some more time, but it's finding the right combination that is important. When it comes to reliability, I think the whole industry made huge steps over the last years in being creating an uptime. 99% is the norm. It's no longer an exception, and that is great to see. But only having uptime is not enough. So you need to make sure that the whole ecosystem, the whole customer journey is flawless. Meaning, you have to find the charger in your app or in your navigation system. All the data needs to be correct that you see there. When you arrive, you need to be able to authenticate without any problems. You need to be able to use your payment cards and payment methods, and that needs to work. And the payment service provider needs to work. So it's not only having the charger live that is important. It's the whole customer journey. And I think the whole industry has made massive steps there, and continues to do so, and that means it also continues to become more and more easy for the customer, and it needs to be fully hassle-free, and we're really getting there. That's but that's a basic requirement in the end.
Yeah, we're getting there as an industry. That's great to hear. We also get there as a panel. That's definitely one of the topics we will touch up on as well, about EV driver experience. But before we go there, maybe Philip, looking to you as a hardware OEM, because in the end, it's about the ecosystem, right? You can have a great platform, you can have a great operations, and great hardware. But if one of this is not functioning, it can also cause a problem. So what are you doing from your perspective to support the CPOs in reaching a high uptime?
First of all, I would say that the reliability is at the core of our business strategy, and Alpitronics chargers are known for their reliability. But looking at reliability, what does it mean for us? With which KPIs are we measuring it? So this was an exercise we did last year, where we had to try to find out what are the right parameters to find out if the equipment is working or not. So and in principle, we have two KPIs we are continuously monitoring. It is the uptime, and it is the charging success rate. And maybe let me explain with what both things are meaning, what's behind that. So uptime is means that the equipment is there, it's running, and it's mainly driven by a good product and by a functioning service organization. The charging success rate is mainly driven by how the charge is engineered, the interoperability, and I would say the software of the device. And at Alpitronic, we are continuously monitoring both these parameters to steer our organization, to find out if things are not working, try to discover why, and then to correct, prevent, and introduce fixes with new software releases, for example.
Yeah, this ecosystem is very important, right? So it's great. It's great, and indeed defining uptime and charging success rate. I think those are key, because when is a charger up, right? When there might be when
green light on
connection with the telecom provider, doesn't mean that you cannot charge sometimes, because there's a whitelist, those kind of topics. So defining this as a market is also important, right?
I think yes, that we have to find a way where the industry is defining together one calculation method for uptime and success rate, so that we can compare, and that's something I think we have to do in 2025 as an industry. Then for hardware manufacturing, we just see a part of the whole journey. So some things we don't see in our data. So therefore, maybe we have to have kind of a step-by-step approach, where we have one success rate figure looking at the equipment, then maybe something we have to add for the authorization, for the app, for the network. But I think that's something we have to discuss and define in 2025. That's also one of the reasons why I joined ChargeUp Europe, the board of ChargeUp Europe. So this is my mission for 2025, to find a common way of calculating these very important KPIs.
Great. It's noted here, and I think we have a lot of participants from the industry, so it's a call to action to a lot of you guys. Maybe Aurélien, we already discussed a few topics, right? Uptime, reliability, maybe operational efficiency is an important one as well, I would say. Can you share your view on this, the topics so far as well?
Yeah, my view is that in our job as a CPO, if you want to do a good job, you have to align several elements. You need to align planets and be good at several subsets. There's no magic wand, and there's no, secret sauce or particular ingredient. You just need to be good at getting the right financing at the right cost of capital, getting the right sites, which are well located, getting the right hardware. And for this, we have our colleagues, Philippe, doing a good job, getting the right electrical equipment, getting the right product, software and user interface, and then getting the right maintenance and customer support. So it's like there's no, rocket science at any point in time. It's a little bit like Amazon. Amazon is just an e-commerce selling books, but they just do it incredibly well at every step of the way, which makes the whole experience great. And this is why people go there. So you need to be very, very disciplined and make sure that each of these steps are carefully managed. And I think from a broader perspective, what we have seen is that there's been a lot of commissioning, a lot of chargers installed, as Marcus shown previously. But now we see the market switching from quantity to quality, meaning that people are not just spreading around as many chargers as they can. I've seen it in the fundraisings that we did, because we had several fundraising in 21, in 22, in 24. And initially, the question I was getting from the investors was, how many sites have you secured? How many chargers do you have? And now the question is, how many customers do you have? How many charging sessions do you get? And what is your revenue? So we're very much switching from quantity to quality. But I think this is very healthy for our industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the quantity to quality. I think it's important for the whole industry, but especially also for the EV driver in the end, right? Because in the end they are the ones that are charging at your network or not. Maybe Marcus, one last call from you as well. Do you see these topics being raised at your customers from the e-mobility projects you are heading in the market as well? And what do you advise them?
Yeah, I see it already, and I think everything is almost said, but not from everybody. Maybe to summarize it a little bit. What Philip said, we need to find solution to monitor the right KPIs, and it is every time good to have the same measurements for the different customers. So it's a kind of platform to measure it, the successful charging session and the uptime. We as P3 were asked by different customers, and we try to find a good solution for this. Next one is a robust service. So we need professional end-to-end testing programs, also kind of standard testing programs. As said, for the Amazon experience, it's also nice if you know what you're testing, and it has to be 100% the same test, and then the outcome is not apples and bananas, it's apple to apple, which is very important. For the customers, it's also good to have a professional service and support team in the background. And we are working on AI bot who is helping the customers. So it has to be not human. We can also use AI to support the customers at the charging process, and we make great progress on this. And this can save money and also lead to more happy customers. So in the end, it's about digital tools, and we have to use this and on a cost basis, which makes very much sense, because it's not good if the costs are too high. That's the reason why I say we need digital tools. And on the grid challenges, and Arjen, thank you for the flowers to Germany. I'm really not happy with all the grid challenges we have in Germany. It's far too slow in my opinion. It's if you ask for a 1.5 megawatt hour connection, it lasts every time between 6 months and 2 years. And in the Hola project, we made this experience already. And I think that's the reason why I'm thinking about huge batteries, battery energy storage solutions. Of course, I'm also a battery guy, and I would like to sell more batteries in Europe, that we have also a battery cell future. That's one truth. And then other truth is I'm really thinking we can use this to speed up the process. And this is very important because it's very, very frustrating, as Ian said, wait for the grid connections for years, because we need the solutions now and we need to have the ideas, because logistic companies are not waiting 2 years until they can drive electric with their cars and trucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and you raised or you made an important link here already, Marcus. I think between the topic of operations and the one of EV driver experience, because in the end it ultimately depends on how they experience their the charging, right? So, yeah, it's clear that charging network needs to build strong relationships with their customers. What strategies works best, in your opinion, for attracting and retaining those EV drivers?
So we're trying indeed to, at the end, business is a simple thing. It's the same thing for 3,000 years. It's trust. Trust. People like it, they trust it, and then they come back. So we're trying to build that trust. I think that's incredibly important. And so it's a set of small things which are used, I think, in many industries, such as loyalty program, making sure that you reward your customers that are coming back. Specific programs for B2B, I mentioned that already. B2B fleet need to get a specific treatment. We are probably going to launch a subscription also to make sure that the power user get a better and preferred access to our network. And it's making sure so that you answer your customers very fast. So it might sound, a bit silly, but if you ring your CPO, you want to have someone on the phone in the next 60 seconds. That's how you, I think, show that you care about your customer and you provide some high quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clear. And it sounds familiar. If you call, you want to have an answer quickly, not only with charging, but absolutely. Arjan, beyond the topics that Aurélien just mentioned, what else makes a great charging experience from your perspective?
Yeah, it's good when I mentioned that from the beginning to end. So it means knowing where to find the charger. You don't have to think about it anymore. You know where it is. You know where to go. You know how to get there. Your car is supporting you in that. Your apps are supporting you in that. You know what the price will be. There is transparency. That creates the trust that we were just talking about. So you can only create the trust if you know your customers' expectations, and you can meet or exceed those expectations. And that is what we continuously need to do. And there are more and more new people driving EV cars, and they don't know the ecosystem. They come on the market for the first time, and we need to take them by the hand and show them that it's really easy. And that's what we are constantly trying to do. If people get on the site, if they get on an app, if they get on a navigation system, it's easy to find, it's easy to use, and it works flawlessly. And if you then have to call, of course, you need to be there as a CPO. Yeah, so it's a flawless experience with full transparency on price, and that creates trust and loyalty in the end. And especially for the new EV drivers, that is very important. The innovators by now are behind us. The people who are accepting 10 different charge cards, etc. That's a long time behind us in the meantime. We really need to make it simple and easy for everyone.
Yeah. Absolutely. Maybe one last question to you as well, Philip, because in the end, we talked about the combination of this ecosystem from your perspective. How do you ensure that this charging experience for EV drivers is seamless with the hardware that Alpitronic is providing?
Yeah, as I mentioned, as I said before, so success rate, uptime, and I think we have to understand which additional parameters we need. Sometimes I think that we as a manufacturer just see a part of the whole experience, and we have to understand where we can interface to the things which happened before and after our part in the during the session. And as already said, I think it needs to be just simple. And maybe we have to find additional ways to authorize in a way that it's really simple, that the grandma can charge without any, teaching session before. So it needs really to be as easy as possible.
You're setting some nice goals here, Philip. I like it. Maybe Marcus, to you as the last part of this, and then we go into the Q&A section almost, I think. Do you see these questions or these topics also popping up with your customers? And maybe also the question like, how do I differentiate from others, right? Because you all try to attract people to your site. But does this sound familiar to you as well?
Yeah, I think there are maybe two topics. I think the first one, and it was mentioned already, the charging experience is very important. So we have performed in Europe around 5,000 EV charging test drives, around the world, around 10,000. In general, if we sum this up, Johan, 4 out of 5 sessions are successful, but 20% are not successful, and this causes frustration. That's the reason why I talk about a kind of AI call. As mentioned before, in 60 minutes, you need someone to help you, and that's very important to the customer. And the second one, as you said, the sites are changing, but actually we are short in money in the market, to be honest, but you're asking for trends. We see a two-step approach. So of course, maximizing reliability, customer experience for the EV drivers, and the differentiation with new site designs and amenities. So amenities are also, as I said, we have flagship stores now. Porsche and other companies are building up these stores. This is also a trend to make battery electric charging, maybe bring it to the next level. And this could also be very interesting, so that it is not in kind of a dark mode on the side of a highway. It has to be nice, and lights have to be around, and maybe you can grab a drink if you have a wireless connection. This is how the world is now, and maybe this could be a kind of future, but we need, of course, money to do this.
Yeah, so also bringing in the perspective of amenities on site, right? Which are also being expected maybe by the new wave of people that are coming with an electric car, I would say. Okay, maybe one last question to all of you guys. Looking forward into 2025, maybe you can summarize in one sentence, where do you see the EV charging industry heading the coming year? Arjan, I already see you unmuting, so let's start with you again.
Yeah, it's. I think January already the numbers are going up across Europe again, so that's really good news. So great new cars are coming, from across all price ranges. Great infrastructure is being developed and will significantly grow again this year. New customers are coming on board. So I'm really positive on where we are going as an industry, and it is our obligation to make sure that once people take the choice to drive electric, that they never want to go back to ICE again.
Great. Aurélien?
Yeah, I do think this year is still going to be quite challenging for the whole industry, because even so, we should see an uptake in BEV sales. there's still an overbuild, as I quote from what was being said, I think. So the utilization rate might not be incredibly high this year. And I do think that all of us, as part of the industry, we really need to work on the narrative. I really urge you, my friends, to work on the narrative to make sure that the electrification trajectory is not undermined, because it is being threatened at the moment, and we shouldn't take for granted that this is the direction and electrification is going to happen and it's going to be all natural and it's going to be okay. We really need to push and advocate, I think, lobby, and also speak to a larger audience and the public.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. The narrative is gonna be very important also to convince the next wave of people to start driving electric, I would say. Marcus?
Yeah, I would say we will see a huge push also by the Chinese market players. And I like if we face it, because we are strong. We can be proud of what has happened so far. But let's face it, and a personal note, bidirectional charging, personal topic to me, is unfortunately still a dream. But hopefully the dream is over soon, so that we can move to the real energy transition in 2025.
I understood your dream already came true at your own house, Marcus. So let's wait for the rest of the market.
Yeah.
Philip, last but not least.
I think that for us as a manufacturer, 2025 will be a transition year in Europe, at least. Volumes are going down compared to the last years. So we had 5 years of doubling volumes every year. This is over. Now it's time for consolidation, time to optimize, time to improve. And as a company, we have the challenge to bring our products to the US, grow in the US, prove ourselves in the US. And as I think it was said by everyone, we have to bring more cars to the road. I think that's at the end the goal we have to follow, because otherwise no one of us will make business in the EV sector.
There are enough calls to actions, I would say, that we have been shooting to in this panel. So that's great. Work to do. Yeah, I think we had a great discussion in the panel so far, but let's turn to our audience now as well. Let me look into the questions that have come in and pick a few of those. Let me see. Maybe first of all, a question from Wolf Slachter. Also, yeah, maybe building further on what you started, at least with or ended with, Philip. For all of you, how can you as a consultant, CPMS provider, hardware manufacturer, CPO provider, enable the major OEMs to bring more battery electric vehicles into the European market? How can we, as a panel with all the different interests that we have, how can we support them on this?
If I can start, maybe in my opinion, we need to show that it works. Sometimes associations of car manufacturers are claiming that there is not enough infrastructure, that the infrastructure is not working. But I would say it's working in the majority of the countries. We have the right power levels. You can charge fast charging cars and slow charging cars. It's all there. We should show them that there is no excuse to don't bring the cars to the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we saw it also coming back in the ratio between the charging stations and the BEVs, right? It's not that the infrastructure is not being rolled out, I would say. Maybe Marcus, your view on this as well?
I really think the set is it's all set. I don't know what really can prevent a battery electric market. as I said, plug-in hybrid, I have the same opinion, to be honest. Yeah, they're in between technology and it should be all electric. The batteries are fantastic. The charging performance is fantastic. We will have pretty soon much cheaper cars, which is maybe then very important for the mass market. And then we need to have a EU and the governments, and they don't even have to push, but uncertainty is very, very toxic to all of our customers and to all of the players around. And maybe this is important.
Yeah, and maybe looking also at the other questions, I see one from Matthias. He says that studies show that 80% of the full electric EV drivers want to charge at home as well. How do the CPOs see the business opportunity to establish charging networks in larger garages in city centers? Aurélien, maybe starting with you, what's your view on this?
I think it's very complementary, you know, like you have a lot of people who are going to be able to charge at home, and those are probably the ones who are going to equip first with electric cars because they have this convenience. And in the meantime, we need to demonstrate, we need to show, you know, often I hear some people around me saying me, you know, I cannot go for an electric car because I don't have a plug at home. But I always tell them, you know, you don't have a gasoline pump at home either. You just go every, I don't know, 10, 15 days and you fill up your energy into your car. And this is exactly the same thing with an electric car, and it works well. So to the previous points as well, I think we need to push on the lobbying. As I said, we need to push on the communication. We need to push the OEMs also to go for 800 volts. Because to be honest, and this was being said also on the panel, the early adopters are here already. Now we need to go into the mass market. And if you tell the mass market that charging a car from 10 to 80% is going to take 40 or 45 minutes, it's not good enough. They're not going to bother make the move. So you need to show them that it's more like 10 to 20 minutes as opposed to 40, 45 minutes. So pushing the OEMs to be ambitious on 800 volts and having predictability as well. This is what I said in Brussels last week. We had an audition with Commissioner Titi Costas, responsible for transport in Europe. We said we need predictability. If we change the games of rule of the CAFE penalty in 2025 already in mid-February or early March, not even after one quarter has passed, then we're not being serious about the rules that we set. Sorry, I derived a little bit from your question on home charging. I'm sorry.
No problem, but would be curious to know what his answer was on this, but I don't know what you can share, Aurélien. But
no, we are not going to go on home charging as CPO. This is just a position from Electra is that again, as I said earlier, if you want to have a good service, you need to be extremely focused. And so providing good service in fast charging is already, you know, aligning several planets. And trying to do everything seems difficult, at least for a company of the size of Electra. There's only 250 people in the company. So we're not necessarily going to investigate into home charging. Even so, I think it's an interesting business. And we are not either going to invest into truck charging. Even so, I think it's a very interesting business. But just because we have a certain capital to allocate, we need to focus.
Yeah. Arjan, would be great to get your take on those two questions as well. And maybe thinking about the use case, I also see a question here about public charging from Kevin Lin, how you see public AC markets compared to high-powered charging. And I think, you're great to answer that, right? Because you are covering both, I would say.
Yeah, and I think the word is already mentioned. That's complementary. You need it all. Yeah, it's fast charging is great. Yeah, and if you're especially if you're traveling long distances, you need it. But a lot of people are not traveling long distances. They stay within their city parameter, and they can perfectly well charge when they're at the supermarket. And I personally hardly ever use anything else than AC because I can charge at home, I can charge at work, I can charge at the supermarket. On the weekend, I can charge in the city where I am. So it's really complementary to each other, and we need to make it as easy as possible for the EV driver, and especially the EV driver we already named, who doesn't have a wall box at home. Yeah? So that is more and more people who are in big apartment buildings. Not all parking garages are kitted out, so they need a place where they can charge as well in the city. And you know, Johan, from the Netherlands, 95% of the charge points is AC there, and it's very well used. So it's an easy way. It's not a hard on the grid. It's cheaper for infrastructure and for people. So I think it's complementary, and you need it all, and that is also what the OEMs need in the end. And they don't need only high power charging. They need the EV driver to be able to charge where they want to charge. And I always use the sentence integrated in your life. And if you do that in a smart way, it hardly takes any time away from you. And that's the opportunity you have with EV charging.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And maybe then the last question I was looking into was about, let me see, I'm sorry for that, but I just lost it. Yeah, so about the customer experience. Nicolas Debar, hello, you've been talking about a lot about customer experience, which must be improved. I agree. Today, customers are suffering from complexity when it comes to payment, and they need to have several cards from several EMSPs. What is your long-term vision on this, and how can this be improved? So I think it's a good question about, again, the customer experience here as well. I see you nodding, Marcus. Can you elaborate on this one?
Yeah, I'm just laughing because in the beginning, as we did all of these EV charging tests in Europe, and that's especially the question, we had a map, kind of album with, I think, 60 charging cards. I think now it's time, and what do we have here? It's a clash of direct payment and the different solutions by the provider. And even in the P3, we have different opinions on that. But to answer this question very easily, to be honest, direct payment is the easiest way. And this will make the customer probably very, very happy. But of course, there's other position by the different providers which can provide much nicer tariffs if you are in their network. And also, maybe related to the AC charging question, of course, if we have load management, if we have dynamic tariffs, this could be also a sweet spot to the customer if you can earn money with these solutions and be part of the energy transition. This could be also, different. Here we have different opinions, of course, but for the customers, this could be also the very nice in the end, I would say.
Yeah, and maybe would be great to hear your view on this payment solution as well, Aurélien, because you touched already on some offerings that you have, of course. How would you? What's your view on this for the EV driver?
Yeah, I think my view is so what we're doing is we're installing credit card terminals on all our chargers to make it very simple. You know, I get a lot of people telling me when I go to a gas pump, I take my credit card out, I pay contactless, I start, go. And so the idea is to repeat that experience because people like it and it's very simple and they always have their credit card in their pocket, basically. And then for other usage, we need to integrate better and better with the EMSPs, make sure that we can have direct connections, make sure that information is accurate. Yeah, I think these are the two elements, but credit cards is definitely one very, very big enabler.
Yeah. And again, also with the changing use case, if I'm driving my private car, I maybe prefer to have a bill just at the moment that I charge, like I'm used to right now, and not a big bill at the end of the month, right? Maybe one last question to you, Philip, which I think might be interesting as well. from George. Many existing charging stations operate on outdated firmware and a lack of uniform security standards. Different manufacturers use varying security protocols, leading to inconsistent protection across networks. Does cybersecurity keep up with the rapid expansion of the charging network? So really about can we keep our network secure as well, basically?
So we saw first questions on cybersecurity coming up in 2022 from customers. Here a lot have changed. At Alpitronic we have a team of 10 people just caring about cybersecurity. It's a huge topic for us, and I think as more important and more strategic the infrastructure becomes, this is a mandatory and game deciding thing. So so from our side we are investing a lot, and I see that there is a big risk also for the whole industry if something goes wrong with weaknesses on cybersecurity.
Yeah, and also here again, it's about the ecosystem, right? It's not only about the hardware, it's not only about the software, it's about all the components working together. I think it's a great moment to basically finalize our panel discussion. For me, it has been very insightful. I've enjoyed every single minute, I would say, from discussing this with you guys, and the time of 1 hour and 50 minutes flew away quite quickly. And I would also like to thank you as the panelist, of course, but also the audience for joining us and asking their questions. And I would like to say, stay connected, guys, to all the developments, and maybe to shortly summarize the things that we've seen here. We've been talking about charging while you do other things. We've been talking about that it's important to define things as an industry together. Quantity to quality was a very nice one. The role of AI, and also the trust that we need to build, right? So I think there are a lot of calls to actions in this panel discussion as well. So thank you very much for this. Maybe one last call. Baicho, if you can go to the next slide. We have one other webinar coming up on March 20th, which is more focused on North America. So make sure to subscribe for that one as well. If we go to the next slide, then I would like to urge you to make sure that you subscribe to the Unpacked newsletter as well. And I believe, thank you for your participation and looking forward to stay connected. Thanks for your attention.